Pokemon Black Bolt and White Flare is now out in full swing, and the set looks fun to open. I've seen a lot of people open up a lot of the set already. Me personally, I haven't opened up any myself, but we do have some streams coming up where we're going to be opening up a decent amount of both of the sets. We've had some interesting issues regarding getting hold of White Flare here in the UK. There was a bit of a delay on certain products. Some places weren't getting ETBs, or some places weren't getting the binder collections, and so on and so forth. So it's a bit tricky getting hold of White Flare. But it looks like Black Bolt is going to be the most popular of the two sets that people really want to get hold of. But the set looks fun to open with all the illustration rares, the Pokeball reverses, the Master Ball reverses, and apparently good hit rates. From what I've seen from a lot of people, is they're getting a ton of hits, right? Kind of gives that Crown Zenith vibes, which is really, really good. Especially like when you look back at Prismatic Evolutions at the beginning of the year, it just felt terrible to open up that set. You just weren't getting hits really at all. But I think they've gone full ham on this one with all the illustration rares, right? You had Prismatic with no illustration rares, and this set we're getting all of the illustration rares. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the overall value of the set will be moving forward in the future, if the pull rates are good as well. But I kind of feel like with that many illustration rares, it will hold a higher value than other sets. Today we'll be looking at the pull rate data for Black Bolt and White Flare. And we're also going to be looking at the most expensive cards in both of the sets. And on top of that, we're also going to be looking at the overall value of both of those sets right now. Now, bearing in mind, this set hasn't even been out a week. Or sorry, these two sets have not been out a week. So it's going to be kind of inflated prices, to be honest, with a lot of this set, or both of these sets. I kind of feel it's one set, but it's two, but it kind of feels like one because they both form basically the same set. But yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see the pull rate data. I have no idea. Like I said, it seems fun. It seems good. You know, you get a good volume of hits. You don't feel that bad. So let's find out. So we have here the Black Bolt and White Flare pull rates. This is really, really interesting to see. Like I said, with Prismatic, it was super tough. Paladin Face was pretty good because you had a lot of the baby shinies and stuff, which did help quite a lot when open up the set and getting that good, but kind of that feel-good factor of getting something rather than just not getting anything at all. We've had tough pull rates in other sets as well in the past. The Black Bolt, White Flare, there is a lot of cards across both of these sets right now. The booster pack prices are falling a little bit as well. I think the last time I checked, or the pre-order price of these, they were fetching like $12, $13 a pack, so it's nice that they're falling a little bit less. Of course, you've got the new rarities, which are these crazy-looking art rare type thing. So you've got Zekrom coming in at $458. Wow. Victini's the only one that's featured in both of the sets, but it seems to be a higher value from White Flare. Interesting. But yeah, very, very expensive stuff there. So let's take a look at the pull rate. So we don't have a nice little graphic image like we saw before, which was really, really useful. It's just a chart. So let's take a look at this. So we've got the Pokeball foils. So these are like the reverse foils you can get in the Pokeball shape. They look kind of like the 151 from Japanese, which is pretty good. You're looking at 1 in 3 packs. You've got a 30% chance of pulling a Pokeball. Now in Prismatic, you got Pokeballs quite often, right? The pattern looks a little bit different in this one, but you do get the Pokeballs quite often in that one. I kind of feel like I wouldn't really classify the Pokeballs as hits half the time. I think people got kind of sick and tired of them in Prismatic. I guess it's because you didn't really get much else, right? It was basically Pokeball, 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 and then occasionally you might get a Master Ball, and that was about it. So double rares, so you look at your normal, regular EXs, 1 in 5. So let's look at this in the form of opening up packs, right? So let's say you opened up a poster collection, right? You get 4 booster packs. Well, you're probably going to get at least 1 Pokeball in there, and you might get a double rare in there as well, which is always pretty nice. And in an ETB, you're looking at probably about 3 Pokeball reverses in an ETB, and then potentially 2 EXs in a regular ETB. Then we've got an ultra rare, which is a full art, so full art trainer or full art Pokemon, 1 in 17 packs. This one's a little bit more tricky to get. There's a lot less of them in the set as well. So you can open up basically 2 ETBs worth to try and get at least 1 full art. Then you've got the illustration rares. This is where it really shines. So there's an illustration rare for every single Pokemon in the set or in both sets. And that helps, right? You go with Prismatic, there was none at all. They kind of just had a bunch of special illustration rares and no illustration rares. That's why the set feels so horrible to open. Could you imagine how good Prismatic would have been to open if it had illustration rares? Not necessarily this amount, but just illustration rares would be really, really good. But unfortunately it didn't. So 1 in 6 packs, that's actually very common. In previous times of sets, an illustration rare would have been roughly around about 1 in 13. I think it worked out that you were going to get somewhere around about 2 to 3 illustration rares per booster box. And this is 6. So if you open up a booster box equivalent, you're going to get 6 illustration rares in a booster box if you were going to open up an equivalent. But if you're going to open up an ETB, you definitely should be, say definitely should be, but you're most likely going to get 1, maybe 2 in an ETB, which is very, very good. Then you have the Master Ball foils. So these are a lot harder to find than the Pokeball ones. So we've got 1 in 19 packs, so a little over 2 ETBs worth of packs. That is actually quite tough to get, actually. Only 5% chance of getting a Master Ball. So that's actually not too bad. And then the Special Illustration Rares, 1 in 80 packs. That's actually, again, pretty decent. We've seen a lot of other, Scarlet and Violet era sets where the Special Illustration Rares are anywhere between like 1 and like 90-ish to 100 packs. If you look at 80 packs in this one, again, isn't that bad, but you have a 1.25% chance of pulling a Special Illustration Rare. And then for the black-white rares, which was like Zekrom, Reshiram, Victini, unknown. Very, very tough to pull. If you do manage to get one of those, I have a feeling there's a less than a 1% pull rate chance on that one. If we go down here, we've got the Pokeball foils. They're not really showing us what they look like, but you've got the Pokeball foils, 1 in 3 packs, which is pretty good. And then for specific Pokeball cards, if there's one Pokemon that you really want to get, it's 1 in 488 packs, 0.21%. That is extremely tough. I don't think the Pokeballs are going to be worth a huge amount of money. I mean, there might be a couple that might be, but unlike Prismatic, where you had like the Evolutions, which kind of fetch that really big premium, I don't think we're going to get that much here at all. And then you got the double rares, your regular EXs, of course, 1 in 5 packs. But if you want a specific one, it's 1 in 57, which is a decent amount. There's not that many at all, really. Look, it says here, there are only 6 in both sets, so it's not that many to get the EXs at all. The ultra rares, you got the full arts coming in, the full art trainer or the full art Pokemon. 1 in 17 for any at all. Specific 274. Very, very difficult to get hold of that. So there's 8 in total. So between both sets, again, not that many full arts to get there. And the illustration rares, there is a ton. But if you want a specific one, it's 1 in 848. Yes, it's a 1 in 6 chance to get one. Very, very good. But there's so many that it's going to be very, very difficult to get every single one, and certain specific ones are going to fetch a very, very high price tag. And we're going to see that, right? We're going to see there's going to be like fan favorites, and there's going to be popular ones. They're going to be really tough to get hold of, and they're going to be really high in price. We saw it with the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved, Groudon from Paradox Rift. When there is an illustration rare and there's a ton of them in a set, it's going to be very difficult to get them. Therefore, the price will remain quite high. Then you got the Master Ball at 1 in 19, but if you want a specific one, it's 2,802. Good lord. So 0.04% chance. So I like the Pokeball, where pretty much everything's got a Pokeball, everything's got a Master Ball. It's going to be very, very difficult. So there might be some Master Balls that might be worth a little bit more, a little bit extra money. Then we got SIRs in the set, 1 in 80 for any in particular, but then 0.09%, 1,120 packs for a specific special illustration rare. That Hydreigon looks awesome. My favorite one out of both sets is the Kyurem. I think this in White Flare, I think, but yeah, that one is my chase card of the 2 sets. And then of course we've got the unknown, right, which is the black white rare. We just don't know what the pull rates are of that, just because it's so hard to find. So it's going to be really interesting to see if people pull them. I would like to see what they look like in the flesh. In a picture, the one I like the most is the Reshiram. I'm not a huge fan of the Victinis. I don't know, that red looks a bit like whoa in my face, but the others look quite nice. So the pull rates are easy, as in the fact is it's easy to get hits, but to get specific stuff, just because the set is so large and basically flooded, right, with hits, it's going to be very, very difficult. And those prices may hold quite well. Okay, so on PokeJace.io right now, we're looking at Black Bolt. So this is, of course, a few days after the release of the set. We're looking at just under 3k for total value of the set. Very, very good, right? That is pretty good. Bearing in mind, these are like essentially one set that's split into 2. Kind of put it that way. So let's take a look at this. You've got the Zekrom, of course, fetching a $470 price tag. This Zekrom, which I prefer, is $317, and you got the Victini there at $250. And then you've got End's Plan, which is a pretty cool trainer card. Kyurem. So, okay, Kyurem's in Black Bolt. Okay, I need to open up some Black Bolt then. 111, that's my chase card between the 2 sets. I haven't actually looked at every single illustration rare in this set, just because there's so many. I've only really looked at a small handful. So I think I'm going to open up some of this set, and when I do, it'll hopefully be pretty fun to open and be surprised at what I pull, because it'll be the first time seeing certain artworks. But I am trying to get every single illustration rare in the Scarlet and Violet era. That has been my goal and my challenge over the past few months this year, and I've done pretty well. You know, it nearly completed a few sets already. Only got a few left to go of certain sets, but Black Bolt White Flare has massively thrown the spanner in the works and has made it very, very tough to get every single illustration rare. But I will guys, don't you worry. That is going to be my goal, is to try and get every single one. But there is a lot of cards here that are worth a good amount of money, and I've said this time and time again. I value on set on how many cards are above like $10, $20, $30, $40, $50. Is there a card over 100? This set at the moment, I know it's early days, is smashing out of the park with just tons and tons of hits and good value across the board. It's spread quite nicely. Yes, we've got like 3 massive, huge cards, but the rest of the set has a ton, and it's going to be with those illustration rares that will carry this set. I do expect the overall value of this set though to fall. I do. Probably maybe around 2k roughly, maybe a little bit more, but I don't expect it to drop under 2k. There's some rivals as sat roughly 2k, so it'll be interesting to see how well Black Bolt does. And then we have White Flare, which is just over 3k, so White Flare holds more value than Black Bolt, even though I've heard people from so many places say that Black Bolt is way better than White Flare. Interesting. I've even heard it, you know, in comments and some of the streams. A lot of people go, Jace, I'm not interested in White Flare. I just want to open up Black Bolt. Black Bolt is a much better set. Looks like currently the value is in White Flare, which is going to be interesting. Let's put it that way. So Victini's sitting at over $500. Then you got the Reshiram at $480, very close to $500. Then you got the other Reshiram at $230, which is again pretty big. And then you got the Hydreigon coming in there as well. It's interesting that Victini's like nearly double the value compared to Black Bolt. Interesting. Then you got Full Art Trainers coming in. You got some more illustration rares as well. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but again, you can see similar to Black Bolt that we do have a ton of cards that are above that $30 range, $40 range. Let's see how far we scroll down before we get under $10. Quite far, actually. There's a lot of illustration rares in this set. Look how far I've scrolled down. There we go. So we have like what? Basically 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. Over 60 cards above $10. That's insane. That is an incredible amount. I kind of feel like the illustration rares in this set will hold relatively well. I think they'll do better than Paladin Fate's Baby Shinies, just because illustration rares are just better across the board. It does remind me of Crown Zenith in a way, with that huge Galarian gallery that you had, where you just had a ton of like hits and full arts and all this sort of stuff. So they were kind of similar to illustration rares. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see which set of the two performs the best. Black Bolt is the most expensive currently in product wise, and seems to be the favorite, I guess, out of the two. But White Flare has the value over Black Bolt, which is kind of interesting. For me, I'm not that bothered which one I open. Like I said, I want Kyurem from Black Bolt, but because I need all the illustration rares, I need to open up both sets. Do you know what I mean? So it's difficult at the moment trying to get hold of some here in the UK, especially White Flare. But yeah, very, very interesting. So you have it, guys. That is Black Bolt and White Flare. Very, very interesting. Like I say, here in the UK, White Flare did get delayed and cancelled in a couple of places. I managed now to get hold of some of both sets. I managed to get hold of Black Bolt a little bit easier than White Flare, but I have now managed to pick up some. The sealed product prices of this has been falling a little bit over in the US as well. Both ETBs are under $100, which is good. Hopefully they can drop even more. Here in the UK, you're looking around about £65 in ETB for either one. So, you are looking at just over £7, close to £7.50 a booster pack, which is quite pricey. That seems to be the going rate right now with Black Bolt and White Flare, as booster packs have sat around that £8 mark. So keep that in mind. It is more expensive than MSRP, and the value's there though. That's the thing. And until the value goes down, the sealed product won't go down. So I mean, it's one's got to give, right? And I do feel like both sets are going to fall quite heavily, but I think both of them will sit above 2k in total value, which is very, very impressive, by the way. So it's interesting that the Victini is more expensive from White Flare than Black Bolt. But for me, Kyurem is my chase card. I haven't looked at all of the illustration rares. I'm going to enjoy opening them up and hopefully find some illustration rares I've never seen before, which is very, very exciting. But yeah, there is a lot for me to collect. But guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Which one is your favorite, right? Black Bolt or White Flare? Which one of the two sets are you going to go for? You're going to go for both? You're not going to go for any? You're kind of like, you know what, I'm going to skip these two sets. That seems to be the general consensus of a lot of people. Is like, you know what, I'm not that interested. Yeah, this is cool and all, but it's not my thing. I've got another video coming up where I will be covering a little bit of interesting information regarding Black Bolt and White Flare regarding sealed product, especially here in the UK, which is very, very interesting. But overall, it's exciting times, right? Two sets at the same time. Both seem to be performing pretty well, and the artwork's just fantastic, I must admit. Even though I'm not a huge fan of this generation, I do appreciate the incredible art that has gone into both of these two sets. But that's it from me, guys, in today's video. If you want more Pokemon content, make sure to click the video on screen, and of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You guys are legends, and I'll see you in the next one.